the Banking Regulation Act 1949 gave a power to Reserve Bank of India as a banker's bank. The power to remove the individuals is generally considered as a emergency measures. As I said, a removal of a personnel of a banking company will be considered as a emergency measures. According to section 36 EAA, Reserve Bank of India have the complete right to remove the managerial personnel. The Reserve Bank of India have a complete right to remove such a kind of personalities from the banking company. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I am Mr. Hemant Kumar from the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, MYSURU, the Temple of Excellence. In today's session, we are going with the subject Banking Law and Practice, that is session 1 of Unit 3, that is Banking Regulation Act 1949 for first semester BCom students. This is agenda of today's session. We are going with part 2A of a Banking Regulation Act. So, we had gone through part 1 of a Banking Regulation Act, that is preliminary in Unit 2. Here in Unit 3, we are going with part 2A of Banking Regulation Act. It is going to say about control over management. So, according to Banking Regulation Act, the Reserve Bank of India, it have a control over a management. How it is going to control management? According to section 36 AA, power of Reserve Bank to remove managerial and other persons from office. This section 36 AA of a Banking Regulation Act, it give Reserve Bank of India the power to remove the managerial personnel of a banking company. So, what is the formalities? How it is going to remove our personnels of a banking company, at what circumstances it is going to remove, and which are all the conditions that is applicable for a banking company, we can go through. Part 2A of a Banking Regulation Act, it is going to say about control over a management. So, who is going to have a control over a management? The Reserve Bank of India, because this Reserve Bank of India is known as Banker's Bank, and the Banking Regulation Act 1949 gave a power to Reserve Bank of India as a banker's bank. Okay, so Reserve Bank of India, they do have a control over a management of a banking company. Whatever the banking company that is available in India, means which is registered under a Banking Regulation Act 1949, this Reserve Bank of India have a complete right on the management of banking companies. According to section 36 EAA, so, this section 36 EAA gave Reserve Bank of India the power to remove the managerial and other persons from office. So, as I said, according to section 36 EAA, Reserve Bank of India have the complete right to remove the managerial personnel. It may be chief executive officer, it may be a managing director, or it may be a director of a banking company, or any other kind of a office personnels. So, Reserve Bank of India, it have a right to remove any personnels in a management, whether it is a top level management, middle level, or executive level management. According to section 36 EAB of a Banking Regulation Act, power of Reserve Bank to appoint additional directors. Here 36 EAA, they are going to remove the managerial personnel which may affect the organization or a banking company financially. Okay, so if they won't follow any kind of norms, rules, regulations that is made by Banking Regulation Act, or if their performance is not good in the organization, right? So, the Reserve Bank of India, they do have an authority or a right to remove such a kind of a personnel from the banking company. But here, they are going to replace that personnel with the additional directors. Say for an example, they had removed directors of some kind of a banking company. They are going to replace the place of a directors of a banking company by additional director. They are going to appoint additional directors so that they are going to replace a place of a director. And also according to section 36 AC, that is part 2A of a Banking Regulation Act, it is going to say to override other laws. So, there are certain laws that is overridden by the Banking Regulation Act 1949 that we are going to study further. But in this session, we are going with only two concepts, that is section 36 AA and section 36 AB. This section 36 AC we are going to study in next session. Part 2A of a Banking Regulation Act 1949, it is going to say about control over a management, how the Reserve Bank of India it do have a control over a management. That is section 36AA. Power of Reserve Bank to remove managerial and other persons from office. So, as I said, it give a power to Reserve Bank of India to remove a managerial personnel and other officers of a management. Noted to section 36AA of a Banking Regulation Act 1949 gives Reserve Bank of India a power to remove certain managerial personnels. So, managerial personnels are the individuals who is present in a management. It may be a directors of a banking company, chief executive officers of a banking company, or other officials of a banking company. It do have a right to remove directors of a banking company, chief executive officer of a banking company, or other officer. It may be MD or any kind of other designation. The Reserve Bank of India, they do have a right to remove such a kind of officers. They are going to affect the operations of a banking company from their positions in banking company. This provision is key tool for Reserve Bank of India to ensure that banking company operate in sound and efficient manner. Means, if a banking company want to operate in a sound and efficient manner, they are going to take certain precautionary measures, because if the management is not good, if a chief executive officer is not at all going to perform his activities well, okay, so they are going to remove them, especially when there are concerns over a management or a financial health of a bank, right? So, if these people, they are going to affect on a financial health of a banking company in a bad way, okay, that they are going to remove this personnel, means Reserve Bank of India. So, when it come in terms of section 36AA, it is going to say about if any person, if he is a chief executive officer, if he is a managing director, or if he is any director of a banking company, right, if they affect badly on a financial health of a banking company, okay, if they are included in fraudulent activities, if they are not performing well and the management is not good, and in the same way they are not at all going to reach the financial standards of a banking company, the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to remove such kind of people from the management. Here there are some key provisions under the Banking Regulation Act that we need to know about. Power to remove managerial personnel. So, as I said, according to section 36AA, Reserve Bank of India have a complete right or authority to remove some managerial personnel of a banking company. It may be a director of a banking company or chief executive officer, other managerial personnel, okay. So, it may be any kind of a managerial personnel if they affect the financial health of a banking company. If they are going to affect the financial health badly, they do have a right to remove such a kind of designation from a banking company. Again, so this is number 2. It is going to say about circumstances of removal. On what circumstances the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to remove the people of a management. So, if there is mismanagement within a bank, means if there is a poor management in a banking company, they are going to remove managerial personnels to maintain a stability in a financial health of a banking company. The bank is in financial distress and unable to meet its financial objectives. Each and every company have its own objective, and in the banking company also have its own objective, financial goals. If a management failed to reach out a financial goal that is given by Reserve Bank of India, the Reserve Bank of India have a complete right to remove the managerial personnel of that organization, because there is no use of paying them a salary because their performance is no good. The management is violating regulatory requirements. Means, if a managerial personnel they fail to follow the regulation, they fail to follow the instruction that is given by Banking Regulation Act or Reserve Bank of India, they are going to remove such a kind of a personnels. Means it is the obligation of a managerial personnels to follow the instruction of Reserve Bank of India and also the norms that is made by Banking Regulation Act. If they fail to do so, they will be removed. There is concerns about fraud, malpractice or corruption within the bank. If any kind of a managerial personnel or a office workers, they include in any kind of fraudulent activities or malpractices or they get corrupt, the Reserve Bank of India have a complete right to remove such a kind of personalities from the banking company. If the bank is failing to follow prudent banking practices of a violating the law, means if any managerial personnel they are not managing the activities or instruction, means Reserve Bank of India have a complete right to remove such a kind of a personnels. Okay, if they go against law, they are going to remove them. Means these are the circumstances where Reserve Bank of India have a authority to remove the managerial personnels of a banking company. Public interest and financial stability. Reserve Bank as a banker's bank, it have authority and responsibility towards public interest and financial stability of a banking company. It have to maintain a public interest and also financial stability. The Reserve Bank of India can also remove such personnel if it is believed that their continued terms in a banking could have an adverse impact on public interest, the bank's stability or a financial system at large. What is the tenure of a managerial personnel? It may be chief executive officer or a managing director or a directors of a banking company. It is 15 years. Okay. So, during that period of time, if anything happens against a public interest or which is going to impact on the stability of a bank's financial condition, they are going to remove such a kind of personnels. Say for an example, if a manager or director are found to be acting against the interest of depositor or engaging in activities that could harm the reputation of a bank. So, if they harm the reputation of a bank or they engage in any kind of a fraudulent activities, the Reserve Bank of India have a complete right to remove such a kind of personnels. Means to maintain a financial stability and also for the public interest. Temporary and emergency measures. This Reserve Bank of India is going to take a temporary and emergency measures. What is emergency measure that is taken by Reserve Bank of India? Means any kind of a fraudulent activities that the management people that they had involved in, the Reserve Bank of India have complete right to remove such a kind of personnels. That is a emergency measure that is taken by Reserve Bank of India. And in terms of a temporary, the vacant position will be filled by additional people or additional personnels. Say for an example, Reserve Bank of India, they remove a board of directors from the management of a banking company. That position will be replaced by additional directors. Means the tenure or a period that had given, it is temporary. The position had given for the additional director as a directors of a banking company, it is temporary. Means if a Reserve Bank of India bring a new director for that position, they are going to remove. The additional directors will be removed from the position of directors of Reserve Bank of India. These are the two things that is followed by Reserve Bank of India. Emergency measures means removal of managerial personnel in terms of temporarily that they are going to replace the place of a managerial personnel. The power to remove the individuals is generally considered as a emergency measures. As I said, a removal of a personnel of a banking company will be considered as a emergency measures. It is exercised when immediate corrections action is required to protect a bank from further mismanagement or financial deterioration, right? So, if there is any mismanagement happens or if there is any financial crisis occurs for the reason of this managerial personnel, the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to change them. The Reserve Bank of India may then take a necessary step to appoint a new management or directors to restore a stability of a banking company. So after the removal in terms of a emergency measures, it had removed the managerial personnel. So after removal of a managerial personnel, this Reserve Bank of India have a complete authority to replace the temporary place of a directors of a banking company. It may be from a management people or directors of a banking company. So overall, when it comes in terms of a temporary and the emergency measures, it is going to remove the managerial personnel under emergency measures, and also it is going to replace additional people temporarily. Effect on the bank. According to section 36 EAA, ensures that a management of a bank is found to be dysfunctional or problematic. The Reserve Bank of India can intervene directly and remove the individuals responsible. Okay, so if any problem occur in a management of a banking company, the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to intervene between a banking company and it is going to remove the responsible personnel who is responsible for the cause. So this power can be significant impact on a governance of a banking company, and this had introduced to protect a interest of a depositors, creditors and the overall banking system. In the interest of a depositor, creditors and the managing whole banking system, they had introduced this. Appointment of new management. So as I said, they are going to remove individuals from the management. After removal of individuals, the new people will be replaced for the position or the vacant position. In cases where the Reserve Bank of India remove director or senior management, it may also exercise in power under section 36 AB, which deals with appointment of additional directors, right? So according to section 36 AB is going to say about when the managerial personnel had removed from Reserve Bank of India from the banking company, okay, that vacant position must be replaced by additional people, additional managerial personnel. Okay, it may be a chief executive officer, it may be a managing director. To ensure that the banking is properly managed in the interim or until a new appointments are made, means this position will be filled temporarily after Reserve Bank of India recruit a new directors or a new managerial personnel. So the vacant position will be filled by new people and the additional people will be removed from the banking company. In the next session, we are going with section 36 AB, that is power of Reserve Bank to appoint additional directors. So according to section 36 AB, a removal of a directors of banking company is happen. After the removal, that vacant position will be filled by additional directors, right? So it is a right or a responsibility of a Reserve Bank of India to appoint additional directors for the banking company for the vacant positions. And the position of this additional director is not permanent, it is temporary. If a director is appointed by Reserve Bank of India, this additional director will be removed from their positions. Okay, so that position will be replaced by a new directors. Until and unless the Reserve Bank of India, it is going to replace a position of a director, it is temporary for additional directors. Thank you.